Hello, welcome to Lackluster Reactions. I'm your Lackluster Actor, here today for my final view of Season 3 of SpyXFamily, which is particularly late this time. There was, as you can probably tell from the constant changing of the background, there's been some upheaval in my overall life for the past year-ish. So I didn't realize I hadn't gotten into this one yet, and just reviewing my backlog saw that I hadn't done this yet. So either way, it was another strong season with all favorite characters, but how does it overall compare to our previous seasons? Let's dive in and look. As always, we go through the story by its characters. That said, let us shout out two who will not be getting a full look at themselves. First is our biggest antagonist this season, Wheeler. He proved tough, was able to run around Weiss, and was even able to best Twilight in a battle. However, we get more chasing after him than him, and the little bit of ideology we get out of him is scarce, and better talk about with its opposite later, so honorable mention. And for this honorable mention, we have the one operator from Weiss who works at the main base. You know the one which has no idea how to actually do their job as a spy. I'm not going to look up their name, they do not deserve it. Dishonor, you are mentioned here as a public shaming. Get him out of there before he leaks all the secrets Wheeler tried to steal. With those two out of the way, we first start with a shout out to one of my favorites, Franky, our favorite Scruffy. He had only a little showing this season, but the two big ones were memorable. First, he was forced on a team with Nightfall in order to get a proper forger. While small, we did get to see a better picture of him in his element, the underworld, and see that there is more to him than the punchlines we always get from him with the forgers. Even Nightfall was impressed, and she should be. And even more importantly was the flashback where he first met Twilight, where he was one of the foundational pillars of making Twilight question his own ideology by pointing out, yeah, both sides are lying to the soldiers to motivate them to fight. A true case of small role, big impact, but with the benefit that he never left, he is still here by Twilight's side. So all in all, as per usual, Franky continues to be a side character. But he is the best Dawn side character we have, and respect shall be put on my boy's name. Here is to more side appearances in the future. Second, on the side characters who had strong showings this season, but not much to talk about, we have Yuri. Yuri did his job these episodes. First, during our bus snapping case, he helped figure out where the second bus was taken and moved it into secure it himself. Sure, he got hurt for his troubles, but still overall a successful endeavor. Then we had the entire hunt for Wheeler, or from his end, Twilight. Cushioned on both sides by his attempts to undermine Lloyd, Yuri managed to realize Twilight was disguised as him, but actually wounded him in a duel. A duel which involved him just not going down. All the applause for this man's pain resistance, even if he did not win. As one of the closest things to a long-term antagonist outside of Desmond's looming presence, Yuri showed again this season why he is so dangerous. While Twilight stayed one step ahead of him, for now, the Bloodhound is still on his scent, and as long as his sister is near Lloyd, the hunt for a reason to suspect Twilight will always remain. Next on our plate is the Desmond family, which is going to be interconnected into one general area as part, since there is some interconnectivity between the things I want to talk about. But first up is Damien. Damien did little this season, there not being as much school segments this time around, but he had his time with his son as well, during the bus jacking in particular. There was a lot I'm planning on saying about the bus jacking later when we get to Anya, of course, but Damien also found himself with a collar around his neck. And unlike uh, Anya, he did not have psychic powers to know it was a fake. He stood up to the bus jackers, offered to take Anya's place with the bomb, and altogether showed a brave face. He is worthy of a stellar just as much as Anya was. But Damien was not the star of the family this time around. No, that honor rests with his mother, Melinda, wife of the former Prime Minister, which I just learned this season Desmond was, by the way. I'm not sure if that was ever mentioned to you before, or that he was just leader of the party, but anyway. And head of the Women's Socialites. Melinda is a woman in a high place and quickly accepts you as a friend, a perfectly kind individual. But that is not why we're talking about her today. No, it is because first appearance when the topic of their children came up, Melinda started acting off. And she was perfectly honest from what we saw the rest of the time we knew her, so we the audience did not have a reason why the bringing up of Damien caused us so much caginess. But in the aftermath of the bus jacking, Anya met her and learned two very important things about her. First, she loved her son. Second, she hated her son. Crazy, yes, but the human mind can do many interesting things, especially when the emotions are tied to two separate things. First, there is no need to tell us why she loves him. Damien is her son, but we just as much do not need an explanation for her visceral hatred. Damien is Desmond's son. It was the bringing up of Desmond which started a spiral of negative thoughts, and lines up perfectly with everything we know of Desmond. We see he had the traits that make Desmond the perfect leader of the party and allow him to go toe to toe with Twilight mentally and verbally. Also traits which have left his younger son with deep scars of neglect. Is there any wonder his wife would have just as many scars? So, with the intense weight of that neglect, and maybe even worse than what we have seen on her shoulders, she is just made to carry on, putting on the perfect smile, the wife of the former Prime Minister and premier socialite. It would make sense why she only has a small circle of friends, of those she can truly trust, to be her support in her day-to-day life. Because she is definitely not getting that from Desmond. And poor Damien did not ask for any of this. But as the resentment of Desmond grows, the more she rejects those feelings on everything related to Desmond, even her children. And distancing herself from them for both their own good only leads to both parents neglecting Damien. It is a bad situation, but that is what we are truly dealing with at the end of the day. Twilight wants to make a world where children do not cry, where war does not tear apart families. But the reality is, even without war, Desmond is doing a pretty good job at tearing apart his own family. Now, right before we go on to the main characters, there was one more side character who truly put work in this season, and her name is Nightfall. We started the season with some minor Nightfall shenanigans, and boy did we end the season with her showing just how serious a crush on Twilight should be taken. Outside of the final arc, there was not much to comment on Nightfall except for much of the usual ice cream on the outside, lovey-dovey fangirl on the inside. Whether it was her getting along with Franky or her wanting to kill the inner psychologist, she was ever her same self. And then we got the Willow arc, where the traitor himself had managed to subdue Twilight. and is preparing to unmask him right as Nightfall arrives. And Wheeler gave his big speech about mistrust and only relying on yourself. Where the shows will likely go and where I thought it was going, and where this might still have gone if this show was not part comedy, was a combination of Twilight and Nightfall would end up coming together to defeat Wheeler after his, frankly, chuny speech. But that is very much not what happened. Instead, Nightfall went on a warpath, overwhelming Wheeler with the force of someone willing to break their own body to ensure that you are dead. And she was more than capable and willing to kill Wheeler if Twilight did not stop her. I cannot overstate how much respect Nightfall earned in that fight. Her fighting style of "I bet I can break you, let me her fighting style of "I bet you break before I do" was not the smartest tactic, but it was smart. Wheeler likely would have seen through it and countered it if it was smart, even if it was just an extension of her obsessive love. That show of insane, brutal force was the solution needed at the moment, and the solution us fans watching at home definitely deserved. Nightfall has definitely done plenty to earn respect over the seasons, but one fight has raised her profile a few notches among fans, myself of course included. She will forever be the doomed love interest coming in second place against the best girl, but she was more than proven she is more than just a Pete joke. Now we move on to the main characters. And it is with a heavy heart I must say that Yor was the one with the least amount of attention this season. I mean, it is fair. She was given a large story arc last season, and this time the other two were given a chance to shine. But even with the little we were given, Yor still had her shining moments. First, she accidentally got in good graces with Melinda, creating an alternate way to Desmond, or so it seems at least. Then she actually hung out with her co-workers and endangered herself endeared herself to them, even if it led to Drunk Yor almost killing Twilight to save their marriage. But also of note on the US side is the fact that she told the leader of her organization that Twilight might be leaning to the National Party direction. We still do not know much of the assassin's politics, but whatever that little seed will go into, I look forward to seeing. Overall, not much to mention, but still relate the hardest to Yor. Was just not her time to take the spotlight this time. Second, we move on to Anya. We had one master story arc of Anya this season. In fact, it being the very central pillar of the season, with plenty of implications for Damien, his mother, Yuri, and Anya herself. All while Yuri and Twilight were out of the picture for a while. Once again, Anya finds herself in the middle of a situation. However, in this instance, her options are limited. Terrorists have her basically pinned down to a bus seat and have little options other than the use of her mind reading. So first, she managed to get information out of the bus jacking in order to get the police both to stop their bus and locate the other bus. Then she uses the knowledge that the bomb is fake in order to, well, really just play around, but still she was fearless in the face of others carrying even if she knew the trick. So, points for that. But then came the large moment, the government moving in to stop the terrorists without caring about the children potentially getting caught in the crossfire. She is the only one who knows what is about to happen, the only one who is able to read the leader's mind or have any idea of his motives. Then, how does she proceed? She talks with conviction. True, Anya, we know she does not fully understand some emotional depths. See how she expects conversations with Damien to go, and yes, part of it comes from reading a man's memories of his daughter, and part because she knew they were on the clock. But even if they were just bold ideas of ideals, she still was able to use the information she knew to get the leader of the busjackers to realize he was not on the path his daughter would have wanted and surrender, ending the situation with 0 casualties, something no other person involved in the situation was working towards. There were no casualties because Anya did not want anyone to die. And in general, we had plenty of great moments from Anya this season. From her stopping the carnage of the disgruntled office work in the first episode, to sacrificing herself to keep Damon from getting a bolt, to her actually starting to study of her own violations, all happening this season. True, we also have moments of her letting the praise go to her head, but overall, Anya is had as impressive a showing at this season as possible. Even still just a kid, Anya has time and again proven herself as just as capable as Twilight and Yuri in order to solve problems. The bus jackers just being the largest example yet. Anya earned her second star, and I look forward to her growth in the future. Which brings us to the third member of this time around, Twilight, who received a total of 2 story arcs this time around, the one being the origin story giving him a pass. But even outside the story arcs we see with Twilight, he got plenty of screen time. Sure, there are comedic moments like giving therapy to a teacher with PTSD only to realize it was from his wife instead of an actual terrorist attack, but there are also subtle looks at Twilight's psyche. The big one was when he had to deal with the jealous rival doctor, and instead of eliminating him, he worked to get into the doctor's good graces, expose how incompetent and corrupt he was, but keep it a secret in order to have another resource wrapped around his finger. Killing is easy, but to achieve peace you need to take the hard road. And boy, does Twilight know how hard that road is. As we see in the first story arc, a flashback showing how Twilight became Twilight, a young child, he who lost everything in the outbreak of a war, his father, his mother, and seemingly his friends, though those were lost again later. A boy who found himself on the battlefield through lying about his age, destined to potentially live and die, just like any other soldier. But a chance encounter with a certain scruffy on the battlefield led to him questioning the war, not taking either the emergent story from his side or the words of the other at face value. And it was through this willingness to think that he caught the eye of wise, and was taken in to become their new master spy, the Twilight we know. The rise of Twilight told us plenty on him, yet still leaves out so many details. Even with his motives laid bare, he lost everyone, and was already lying about his past when he was serving as a simple soldier. Who he was no longer matters. We saw what drove the young boy to become Twilight, and we know full well that he can never truly go back. Then we go to Monday with our season-ending story arc, the Chase of Wheeler, where we see Twilight actually truly tested for the first time. Not only were they dealing with the best of the Westalia's intelligence, but also one of their best operatives, Wheeler himself. But the large challenge came from neither. Instead, it came from Yuri. Yuri has long flagged himself as the greatest danger to Twilight, a member of public security who is siblings to his fake wife and who is antagonistic towards him. And here, Yuri put himself in a position where it would not be unimaginable for him to be killed. And Twilight has no reason to spare him, except that Yuri would be sad. He keeps insisting that his family is fake, that he's willing to ditch them like every other secret identity as soon as the mission is over. But the singular thought of Yuri sad at the passing of someone she loves is enough for Twilight to lower his gun instead of eliminating one of his biggest threats. When he chose between Yuri and the mission, he chose Yuri. We have not long seen Twilight as the perfect spy, willing to do anything for the peace of both nations. But this time he shows a personal peace, the happiness of the woman he is pretending to love over future security for the mission. The Twilight we started with would never have done that, but both story arcs show us more of Twilight the human. It gives us the larger glimpses yet that everything will likely not end once they finish the mission. Which brings us to our final question. How did I think this season went? Overall, I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed season 2 better, your love likely to cause, but all three of the story arcs this season were great. The in between episodes were kind of, well, they lacked the impact in comparison. I'd prefer if next season finds a better balance, but I understand they have to take the original source material into account, and pacing of the manga does not necessarily translate as well to the screen. But outside of some weak moments, overall a continued glowing review of the series. But that brings us to the end for today. Looking forward to season 4, but right now I'm already bogged down with various sequels and everything else. So waiting a few seasons will probably be good for the staff as well, but mostly for my schedule. Either way, take care.